tell us about your childhood?
Well, great to have this opportunity to tell you about my journey. And my journey started 71 years ago. I was born in Delhi, and my parents actually migrated from then India, which is now Pakistan, during partition, and settled in Delhi. So, and I have.
So they were from which part of Pakistan?
Yeah, so they were from Sargodha, Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad had a business there, and of course he came empty-handed to India. And fortunately, he had the papers of the deed of his house bungalow that he built in 44 or 45. With that, he was able to get claim, and he helped get his brothers, his brother-in-law, and other members of the family settled in starting the business from the ground zero. He was doing business with mostly dry fruits, big large business in Pakistan, but then he started same business here in Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
We were a big joint family, and I was one of the naughty boys of the many. But I think I was generally pretty good at studies too from the beginning. So I was able to get away with a lot of naughty things in a joint family.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was also very close to my dad. My dad was my kind of hero. He always gave me only one advice. He said, Ajit, the secret of anyone's success is hard work. He said, even if you are not as smart as the others, but if you do hard work, you will compensate for the lack of IQ by hard work. The example is this: my cousin, who is my role model actually, he was always highest marks in the class. I was generally getting first division. He used to get the top star in the school. They said, look, he does so well. But I was good, but not the best student. And but my dad used to only tell me, work hard. And that was a good I think, coaching for me. And when my cousin moved to US, and he and I got along so well, he said, Ajit, you need to come to US. So I did my undergraduate studies in India and worked in a company called DCM Chemicals for a few years. Then I ended up going to US for my graduate studies. And my cousin, whom I looked up to all the time, and he was still super smart. And my first job, that's where I think my journey became the most interesting one, was in the company called Bell Laboratories, which was part of the big company called AT&T. And I started as a research scientist in 1980 at Bell Labs. And getting a job at Bell Lab was like winning a jackpot. And I was the researcher, and the role of the researchers in Bell Lab was to serve the mankind in semiconductor industry. And they generally don't tell you what to do. You have to decide what you can do which will help the mankind in the semiconductor industry. And semiconductor industry in 1980 was very small. Like a total revenue was maybe $5 billion, but it was growing. And what got me very passionate about the industry was we were making the memory chips at that time. The memory chip, the way we describe memory chips, at that time, how much memory you can put in a small chip. And I'm not going to bore you with the technology and technical details, but we used to say 256 kilobit of memory on a chip. And that was the first time AT&T made, and I was doing some research on how to make this technology very successful. And I started doing a lot of thinking how this technology will go further. So I was able to get 15 or so patents in the first 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. But getting the first patent was wow, I'm an inventor. Mm-hmm. And that was like, I couldn't believe that a young boy, I came to US when I was 23 years old. Young boy from Delhi, really did not know much about the world. And coming to US and the at the age of, at that time, so 30, 31 or 32, that I have my first patent.
And what was that first invention which you made?
Yeah, it was about the gate oxide integrity. Again, it's very technical.
No,
but I won't even remember
will be
which
interested.
15 patent. But in Bell Labs, the only KPI was the key performance indicator. How many patents you produce, and that was really the measure of your success. And Bell Lab used to produce one patent a day. And of course, when I got 15 patents, that means I filed for about 30 or 40 or 50, because not every application results into a patent. But it was a very big turning point in my mind of thinking that I don't think I had that kind of vision or even the foresight that one day I'll be a scientist, go to US and I'll have my patent. I'll be inventor. But that when the first patent application I filed, I felt that something is happening which is going to give me a future, which will give me some fame, which will give me something to give to the world. That I will help advance this industry.
To create a mark.
Create a mark. So, of course, after 4 years or so in Bell Labs, I came to the management rank, which was also not very common for a person like me. Most of the, and I hate to say this, but I will say it, most of the people in the management cadres used to be typical white male and blue eyes and blonde hair, and I have none of those. But I think the way I progressed in the first 4 years of working hard, working with the team, I was a very good team player, and I was recognized by people that Ajit is a problem solver. That was kind of the tag given to me, that any difficult problem came, I got involved, I solved the problem, I filed a patent. So if you ask me what other patents are, I won't even remember now. But of course, when I read it, I will know it. But it was more like we ran into some complexity. How do you solve the problem? And then we filed a patent.
It helped you to build that problem-solving skill.
Exactly. It also built confidence that I have something unique in me. There are many people also have unique things, but I have something unique in me that I can contribute. And that was being recognized in Bell Labs, that Ajit is a team player, and also he is a contributor, he is a creative person. So that led to, actually what happened, this was the early stage of the industry. And there's, again, complexity in technologies, I won't bother you with that. But I was known as the plasma etching expert. And I used to say that the etching depends upon what's coming to etch with the material which I am etching. They're not done in the proper quality and proper process. It's the garbage in, garbage out. They said, okay, Ajit, you're always complaining about the other departments. Now you'll be the head of the deposition group, and fix those problems so that etching people don't have them. So I was given the problem which I was complaining about it, that go fix it, instead of complaining it. Well, they didn't say it that way, but that's what. So I became the actually equivalent of a VP of R&D, but the title in Bell Labs was supervisor. And there were probably, maybe I'll count the people on fingers of one hand who were supervisors with people of different origins, like Indian origin or even Asian origin. And I felt honored that it happened the way it happened to me. And of course, I went up on the ladder, and then there was always a discussion between the R&D and the manufacturing wing of AT&T, which was called Western Electric. Western Electric people used to say, you people in Bell Labs, you think you know it all. When you give us the technology to put it into manufacturing, we run into a lot of problems. It doesn't work. You need to really do a better job of what you develop. Then I said, to my management, my senior bosses, I said, maybe Mano, I should take a rotational assignment into the manufacturing wing of the company and understand what problems they see coming from us. And of all the places, AT&T built a fab in Madrid, Spain, They said, Ajit, how would you go to Madrid, Spain? Because that fab is not working. The things are not working well there at all. Why don't you go there? So I uprooted my family. And of course, maybe go back a little bit. I got married at the age of 26. And this was 1990 when I went to Spain. And I had 3 children by then. The ages 12, 9, and 5. And my wife was working. She said, honey, how can we just go like this? I said, don't worry, there are international schools. We'll just put them in the international school. They will be in English and so on. And she was very supportive. If she didn't support me, I would have been nowhere. I mean, I would have been probably continuing the AT&T and probably, I don't know which way the journey would have gone, but coming to Spain was definitely another turning point for my career. I learned a very big thing about culture. The Spanish culture, very different than the Indian culture, of course. There are some similarities, and definitely very different than the US culture. In fact, remarkably different.
It's similar to Indian culture.
Similar to Indian culture, but definitely very remarkably different than the US culture. They are much more also family-oriented people, like Indians are.
They love leisure, football, and all.
They love a lot of entertainment and a lot of leisure and a lot of fun. Whereas America, we always work, less on the other things. Anyway, so 3 years was a very good journey for me in terms of making successes at work. And the learning to work with Spanish people was a big learning for me, because their motto was that I don't need more money or raise. I just need more vacation. If you want to reward me for anything, give me extra days of vacation. Because they want 6 to 8 weeks of vacation every year. And they have a challenge of everything doing in a kind of their own way. For example, in India we say kal kar lenge, right? In Spain, there's a similar word called mañana. And they say anything you tell them to say, okay, mañana Ajit. And you know what mañana means?
Next one.
In the book, in the literature, it means tomorrow, but actually it means different. And so I had a all-hands meeting in first 2 weeks of I said, listen, I have a lot of respect for your culture. I'm not going to tell you to do things differently. But when I asked the meaning of mañana, I said, how many of you tell me what's the meaning of mañana? And some people say in the front row said tomorrow and so on. I said, no. If you talk to me about mañana during social hours, I will fully accept it and understand. But at work, don't use the word mañana with me. Mañana doesn't mean tomorrow, it means not today. And that's not today is not acceptable to me. You can give me exact month, date, day and time and year, I'll accept that. And even if you tell me I'll work the next year, I'll accept that, but don't say mañana, because mañana is very indefinite. It's unknown. So again, cultural aspects, but how you handle it, how you deal with it. That's just one example. It brought people closer to me. They said, no, you're right. So I said, I love the word mañana. It's very similar to my own culture. But we are delivering to the customers. They don't believe the word mañana. If they want tomorrow, we have to deliver it tomorrow. So, and other thing was I learned a bit of Spanish there at that time. And sometimes I will say the words in a very weird way or different accent. They would make fun of me. And it was fun. But my family loved it. The Spanish culture was just, we totally got merged with the culture. We had beautiful living there and made a lot of Spanish friends and enjoyed the journey. But professionally also it was extremely successful. After 3 years, I came back to US, back to AT&T. And I was involved in some big projects of AT&T. Very happy. And then 2 years later, totally unexpectedly, I got a call from a recruiter. Sir, Philips Semiconductor in Netherlands, they know all about you from your journey in Spain. They are building a new wafer fab It's a big business unit. Why don't you come and run that business unit? I said, I don't think I want to uproot my family again. And but I said, I'll check with my wife and let you know tomorrow. Came home, I said, honey, here's an offer from come to Philips Semiconductor and in Netherlands. But now children are going to the high school and it's going to be, and children said, yeah, let's go. We love it. We want to go back to Europe. We love Europe. And that was the change. Mm-hmm. And the next day I said, look, I'll come and with no commitment, I'll listen what is the proposal, what's the offer. And then I'll, with no obligation, but I'll come talk to the COO who was interviewing me for the job. I went for dinner meeting, early morning, next day, the HR manager came with the offer letter, which is very untypical. It actually never happens in Europe like that. That you have an offer after one dinner meeting with the hiring boss. And this is a story, but probably not for the interview. And so he had an offer letter with the only thing left blank was the amount of the compensation. He said, well, I'll tell you the range and you can put the number you want. I said, do I look as dumb as you think I'm as dumb as I look? I said, why would I then pick any number other than the top number? But also, what makes you think that I'll be happy with the top number? And he said, no, Ajit, you are actually smarter than you look. So it was a very good kind of a rhyming conversation with him. And he was also had a good sense of humor. He said, no, Ajit, come on, you're smarter than you look. And my problem is that in Philips, we are very strict about the range, the top of the range, because we don't want people to just make exceptions after exception. Then there's no standards in the salary compensations. Anyway, so long story short, he told me I can help you in other benefits which will make you whole. So I accepted the offer right there and then. Well, with the condition that I'll check with my lawyers and so on. Because there are a lot of complications of moving from one country to other, than the house in US and house in the Netherlands to find the place. And again, all that happened. But just before I was going to join, my boss said, Ajit, the whole business unit was reporting to my boss as an interim. There was no boss there. The head of general manager of that business unit. Came as a general manager of that new business unit. So Ajit, why don't you just go and pretend you're interviewing? They will feel good about this, that they selected they had a part in the process of selecting the boss. But just nothing will change, but it will be a good thing, and you will get very well accepted right away. So that's when people who interviewed me, they thought they are really interviewing me, they were grilling me. Mm-hmm. They said, what makes you think that you will be successful here? You know, in Holland there is a saying, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. And in the past in Philips, there have been Americans and Englishmen and Australians. Nobody has survived here. I said, don't worry about my survival. If I don't survive here, I will be able to go back to US. I come with a very good background. Bella would immediately hire me. They will open the doors right away, but I'll find my job. Don't worry about me, my survival. I'm making a sacrifice of coming from Netherlands to US to Netherlands. But we should worry about the survival of the Philips Semiconductors. 30,000 employees, 37,000 employees. If this business unit does not make success, this will take us under. So, Paul, focus on us as collectively, not about me. So anyway, so I started, and it was a lot of challenges for me to, again, do different culture. Mm-hmm. I got used to the culture, learned about, my immediate view was always to first learn about culture, because the first mistake a person can make, when you make fun of the culture or put down them on the culture, you should never ever play down on the culture, because that's the first mistake any executive can make. And that was the first thing I learned when I went to Spain, that learn about the culture, respect the culture, don't get involved in the in the comparing their culture, what is good part of the culture or bad part of the culture. So that's what I did about the Netherlands. Also, I took some lessons on the Dutch culture and so on.
And I think while leading various teams in different continents, so you also learned a lot to become a true leader rather than become a boss, which you mentioned. So if you can highlight that.
Well, actually, I have a slide. I will show you that. I learned the highlights of the various cultures, how people think in Italy versus Japan versus US versus India versus Britain versus France, and that slide shows subtle differences, but actually they are very impactful. So,
if you can share a few anecdotes with us.
well, yes, I think in for example, Netherlands, they say we love to break rules. Government makes rules, and we love to break rules. And whereas in I think that's not a good anecdote. I'm not saying it right now.
You were mentioning about that Santa Claus thing.
Well, that comes later. So anyway, so what happened? Maybe I'll come back to that. So the business unit that I was leading, it was unprecedented success, and we had a big celebration. We invited the Prince of Holland to our celebration party, who is now the king in Holland. And a lot of pictures, and I'll probably be able to find some pictures of that, send it to you. Probably to take me some days to find. Yes, we have a collection of all those pictures somewhere. And so we gave memorabilia to all the special guests. And then one of my team members came on the stage. He said, "Before we finish, we have one thing more to recognize." He said, "When Ajit was interviewing with us, I was the one making confession that I said, 'Why would you come here? If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.' And he told me that I told him that you won't survive here. And not only that, he survived, he thrived, and he made us thrive with him. And what we learned from Ajit is this slide he showed. It's called Manocha's 10 Commandment. He said Ajit had a regular communication with us in the All Hands meeting. And in every meeting, he would say something as a kind of a theme for the day, and that theme became very inspirational for us, and it became a ways of working and making success for the customers. So that was really when I saw the slide. Of course, I was in emotions, and we gave other people the memorabilia like a big wafer, picture of the wafer, and so on. They gave me the first chip made in that business unit in a very nice container, which I have it, and a bunch of plaques and all those things. But it was for me, the takeaway was they accepted me without any reservations. And I tell you the other examples so I became the corporate officer, and the CEO called me in his office and he said, "You are the first non-Dutch officer of the company." But it was, the other people would think it's a discriminatory comment. No, they were actually very happy to see me coming in that role as a non-white, non-Dutch American citizen of Indian origin, and rising to the occasion. And of course, I became the EVP, which was there are only 20 EVPs in Philips Corporation, and probably there are 2 non-Dutch of the 20 EVPs. And it was a big deal and big success. So I was running the whole worldwide manufacturing operation for Philips Semiconductor. I had operation in 20 countries, and in those 20 countries, like you name the country where semiconductors activities are, like China, Taiwan, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, and Europe, many countries of Europe, and of course in US. So I was involved with a lot of different cultures. So for me, learning different cultures again was a very good journey for me. And I started giving a talk to the young students, classroom to clean room. Clean room is basically the corporate room, to the boardroom. And with my journey, with my learning, my message was that in the classroom, 1 plus 1 has to be 2. If you don't have the right answer 2, you'll get 0 out of 0 mark. But in the corporate room or clean room is the fab where we do the wafer fab, but call it as a corporate room. In the corporate, if you have 1 plus 1 is 2, then you're failing. It has to be more than 2. 1 plus 1 should be 3 or more, because you got to do more than what is expected. That's why 1 plus 1, 2 is a wrong math. But when you go in the boardroom, even more than 2 is a very small answer. It has to be more than 11. So that's the big difference between the way the board thinks, where the executives think in the corporate room, and where the students think in the high school, in the school. So the math changes from 1 plus 1 equal to 2, 1 plus 1 more than 2, actually more than 3, and 1 plus 1 more than 11 in the board. So I give examples of the cultural differences, and anecdotally, there's quite a few things like if you really look at the difference between the US and say Indian culture, I would say that US is very good in making excellent marketing. They are very good in packaging, in the information, very good in narratives. I'm not sure if the contents are always good. When I took the Indian culture, our contents are very good, but with packaging and delivery is probably not very good. So there are subtle differences, but and you can see that Indians are really working very, very hard in this country. They've done a very good job on software. They've done a very good job in general, very good in a comprehensive way of learning. So that, and I think it's not secret. We all know that the high school education in US is not very well respected. But US offers excellent higher education, undergraduate and graduates, and because they have a lot of money for good research and good focus on the equipment and instrumentation. So they produce excellent graduate students. But India lacked at that time, but now India has improved a lot, changed a lot. India has produced actually IITs in India are the best example of the best graduate students coming out of IIT, the best brains coming out of IIT all over the world. In fact, most of the CEOs in US, I'll say 7 of them are from IIT graduates. I was not smartest person, I told you before. I could not get into IIT, but it's okay. I mean, I don't really make it goes back to my own focus, my hard work. So then I was in Philips, so I retired from Philips at the age of 54 or 55, and because my family was already back to US, and they were all out of high schools, and they wanted to be in colleges and the English-speaking medium and so on. And it was becoming difficult for me because I was back and forth. I was traveling all over the world. I was everywhere except home, and I used to go home like 1 day or 2 days a month. And I won't tell them, I just show up. And my children used to say, Dad, we need a frequent visiting points for you. If you come more frequently, we'll give you just like the mileage program. So there was a lot of fun with them. And it became emotionally difficult for me to continue without my family. Because that was another part of my learning from my dad and my mom, that hard work, but also if there's another addiction I have, that's my family. And so my boss from Philips, he came to my house and he said, Ajit, I asked my children, can I borrow your dad for 2 more years? And the answer was, no, we need our dad back. And then I got on the multiple boards, and one of and some consulting roles. One of the activity was involved with the investment company called Mubadala, which had invested in Global Foundries. And we were searching for the CEO of Global Foundries. And I had decided by then that I will not go into a corporate role. I'll be on few boards, because that way you can be still intellectually stimulated and work with the board members and so on and the companies. And no need to be busy 25 hours a day and 8 days a week. Doing this corporate job. But then we were not successful in finding the CEO. Then I became the CEO. And I agreed for 18 months, we lasted. So I feel that I have a lot to contribute to that. And I retired from Global Foundries in 2014. And then I was back on few boards. And then this SEMI joined in 2017. SEMI is a 52 years old association, industry association, it's a global association. Their motto is connect, collaborate, innovate. Now that was similar to Bell Labs' motto, connect, collaborate, and innovate. But the difference is this: the business model in Bell Lab was you collaborate, develop patents, and then market your patents to the industry. And when they will like your patents, they will license it and they will pay royalty to Bell Labs. But in SEMI, we do not have IP, but we bring people together on SEMI events like Semicon happening in India. Bring people together from all value chain members of the value chain of the industry, and we help them network and work with each other to figure out how to really make progress and enable the successes by ecosystem and thought leadership, sharing thought leadership, and so on. So that journey is going on right now. I spend a lot of my time with the policymakers because there are a lot of geopolitical tensions happening, and the industry. That when I mentioned in the beginning that when I started in Bell Labs, I think we were $5 to $6 billion revenue. Last year, our industry ended up with $600 billion revenue. It took almost 60 years, 50 years to get to $600 billion. In next 7 years, it's going to double to 1 trillion. And why? Because the number of disruptions happening in the industry are enormous. It's unprecedented. During my early years of the career, it used to be one application every 3 years, and we'll have major boom, and then nothing happening, and then down cycle will just a steep feast or famine kind of cycles in the industry, and that's when we all hated it. But now the down cycles are very shallow, and the up cycles are very big. That's why 600 billion revenue will go to 1 trillion by 2030. Now the difference is that we have so many new disruptions, or innovations, or applications, which is changing the world, changing the society big time. So if you look at what happened during pandemic, we started appreciating semiconductor industry more than ever.
Yes, because
the whole world went on grinding hard, but with telehealth, with homeschooling, everybody was able to continue the business, but that all depended on the semiconductors. Social media depends on the data centers. More chips were needed. The chip short automotive is becoming a big semiconductor guzzler. Dependent and
more electronic content,
more silicon content.
Infotainment.
So I think the chip shortage actually created a big. I would say pandemic had everything bad. 6 million people in the world died because of pandemic, including my own younger brother. In 2022. And so it's such a big setback of pandemic for many of the people in the world. But there's only one good thing. It actually raised the awareness of semiconductor industry beyond anybody's imagination. Today, semiconductor industry is considered to be strategic for many countries. No wonder India is doing the same thing. And there are a few countries which are semiconductor hubs. And when I look at India, I say that there is a definitely need to grow from 600 billion to 1 trillion. And India has everything what other countries have, and even maybe more. India doesn't have the ecosystem today, but it has the best talent in the world, the biggest market. 1.4 billion population is the biggest market India has, similar to China actually, maybe slightly bigger than China. Language is not a problem. Virtually everybody speaks English.
Talent is not a problem.
Talent is not an issue at all. I mean, yes, there's green talent, but it can be easily trained. When I look at me as a CEO of SEMI, and for me, it's important to look at different ways. Not just as an Indian, I look for India, but I'm also looking at two angles. One is just being an Indian, I have this strong affinity for India, but for my industry, where the industry has to grow, we cannot have the growth in few hubs only. We need to have multiple hubs to avoid the issues that we have during pandemic, because the supply chain disruptions can be very serious. So having multiple hubs actually is the right thing to do. So I think it is the right time. The stars are aligned in favor of India in terms of geopolitical issues, in terms of the similarities in the way that big leaders are thinking, like the US and Indian leaders, and the industry leaders thinking that where else we can grow, because all the growth cannot be in one country or two countries. So I think it's the right time for India to really get into this field. And I think India is very lucky. And I think you actually must say this quote, that the leadership of Prime Minister Modi is already well known. But the two ministers, one is Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, another minister, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekharji. These two ministers come with a deep understanding of semiconductor industry. They have a double E background. So they really understand what will it take to get semiconductor industry started in this country. And they are really, the policy that they have announced, it really fits my vision for sure, because I've been running the fabs, and all my 25-30 years as a head of the manufacturing for the industry in both Philips and Global Foundries, I was approached many times, Ajit, why can't you put a fab in India? And my answer used to be, no, India is not ready because there's no ecosystem. Now, it was very difficult for me to give that answer, but that was the right answer to give, because as a responsible businessman, I had to make sure what's the right for my business. Putting a fab is very easy. It costs $10 billion to build a fab. But making a business out of a fab is not easy. It's not trivial. Mm-hmm. So I was not in favor of putting a fab until there's an ecosystem. For me, this policy, which was announced 2 years ago, is focused on the ecosystem. And no wonder that people are starting to take interest in this. Policy is also very, very generous policy, very good policy. And we are so fortunate that Micron has accepted to put a big assembly and test center with almost $3 billion investment. Mm-hmm. I think that will be a very good starting point, and it will inspire many other companies to come. It is starting now.
And even I think now micro and small industries are also part of the bigger ecosystem. Even the ceramic manufacturer, they're also.
Oh, of course.
This is a fantastic thing.
The Micron will bring so many other businesses to India, because this ecosystem for assembly and test is huge. It will be a big starting point. It's a starting point. It's going to be a big boost for the Indian industry and Indian economy. So I think this is a starting point. It's just the beginning. I think more to come. And being a part of the ISM, I feel that things will go much faster, especially with this inspiration from Micron's launch in Semiconductor India 2023. Mm-hmm. I'm very confident that the future is bright. But I think I will say one more thing. This is something, I use this example many times in my various speeches I give. We always compare ourselves with China. And I don't think that's necessary to compare with China. China is China, and China is there, or China has done very well for themselves. But my inspiration comes from the many countries, but 2 or 3 countries which are very exceptional. Taiwan, a small country, not even recognized by many countries, but they have done so well. They have established themselves as a leader in this industry, especially in the manufacturing side, from the hardware side. And then South Korea, the big powerhouse on memory. Yes, we have a big powerhouse in US, which is Micron, and then the second powerhouse is South Korea. But it's the people of South Korea, the people of Taiwan. They have really done the best to make sure that they are successful in what they're doing. And my message to fellow Indians is, it is not, don't count on the government to really keep telling you what to do. Take the control of your own destiny and make the biggest success out of what is coming and what is likely to come. So that's why I would say, I'm only giving my time. My objective is to give our industry. I have no personal interest in India. I'm not looking for any roles to play, except to help the country and help my industry, because my industry will also benefit if India is successful. If India is not successful, my industry will be also hurt, and my as a role as a CEO of SEMI, which is representing the industry, 3,000 members of the industry, global members of the industry. I want to see the industry to be more successful. So we can't afford the disruptions like we had during pandemic, supply chain disruption. We can't afford that. So we need to make sure that supply chains are working very well. At the same time, we have 3 or 4 global challenges for the industry. My focus is to bring the industry together around the globe to deal with those global challenges. And I'll just outline those global challenges that I'm very much concerned about, and actually everybody's concerned about it. One is, of course, the climate. I mean, we know that climate changes are really well known to everybody now. The number of uncertainties in the weather and typhoons and earthquakes, drought, floods, every day we hear different stories. And this is happening because of the climate change is really hurting the planet. So it's a global challenge. No single company, no single country, no single executive can solve this challenge. So that's what SEMI brings
We can solve it
collaboratively. Second big challenge is the talent. As I mentioned, the industry is growing double the size, but the STEM education enrollment in the Western world is already down. Somehow kids want to go into the
humanities, social science,
social dynamics, and want to be the part of social media companies and want to do other things. But it's a difficult job to be in the wafer fabs. But it's a rewarding job. I mean, I shared about my journey, that how I felt motivated when I get the first invention, and I'm a patent inventor now.
Since you mentioned this point, I just want to go back to your childhood. What encouraged you to be in the technology field? So you mentioned yourself as a naughtiest kid of the family.
No, but that's very simple, because I think it is very common even today. Parents say, "Beta, tum doctor banna hai, engineer banna hai." So I was really not the best student, but I was a good student. So I was good in chemistry, physics, and chemistry was actually my favorite subject. And so somehow I was always going to be a science STEM education.
Mm-hmm.
So for me it was not but I don't think I ever thought that I want to be a doctor. I said I want to be a scientist. And also I don't think I had a clarity what I want to do when I grow up. But I followed my cousin. When my cousin went to the US, and he was also in the science field, and then he got a job in a nice company, I thought that's a good journey to follow. But when I landed in Bell Labs, that's when actually my thinking started crystallizing, that where I want to be from now onwards. So I think my story about myself until I landed the first job is kind of, boring.
That was also really you.
But I was going with the flow.
But you are an exceptional kid.
I tell you, one other thing happened in my journey.
In school life or
which is really very connects the dots. I told you that I used to look up to my cousin, that he is the smartest kid, gold medalist from Delhi University, and I was first divisioner, he is a gold medalist, so that's the big difference. And he went to the corporate world, but he did well, but not like what I did. If you really compare titles and so on, then I did extremely well. Then 10 years back, or 15 years back, he told my mom that, in Hindi, say, "Masi ji, tusi hamesha kehnde si ki you always said that follow me, but now I look up to Ajit, what he's done." But so my mom, of course, always loved him also, because he was so dear to me and he was very dear to our family. We're a joint family, so we were very close to each other. We still are very close. Now, I was fortunate that industry recognized my contribution, and I ended up getting inducted into 2 Hall of Fames in 2019 and 2018 and 2019 or 2019 and 20, whatever the years are. And that was also a total surprise to me. And I got a letter in the mail. We have decided to induct you into the Hall of Fames. Now, again, not for the story, but typically there are maybe 60, 70 people in Hall of Fame to date, maybe 100. So being one of those people.
That is also for 2 times.
That's twice. But I I think people tell me this. I'm not sure if I know the data. They said, Ajit, we have not met person who is a one-time Hall of Famer, but you are two times Hall of Famer. And this is also not interesting to me. Or so. I mean, what happened during the Hall of Fame? My children actually put on Facebook, and my cousin saw that note that Ajit is getting inducted into the first Hall of Fame. And so we took the whole family to the induction ceremony. And when I came home, there was a big gift basket of a lot of goodies and a very nice letter from my cousin. And it turned out that during my induction speech, because I'm not going to tell people that, hey, I've got into the Hall of Fame. So this happened that I told the story that when I came to US, I borrowed $100 from my cousin as a loan, which I never gave him back. But he inspired me to come to US, and of course my journey after the labs has been just an amazing journey. And so when I came home, because I mentioned his name, and it's in the YouTube. Probably you can actually find the speech in YouTube. I'm sure it's there. Somebody told me. I never listened to my own videos. I never watched my own videos. Came this big basket, and with a note saying, Ajit, you have raised the Manocha name to new heights, and it is not just me that I'm proud of you. It's our children and grandchildren will always look up to this thing. We want to be our grandfather, our cousin grandfather, uncle grandfather, Ajit Manocha. So
you became an icon.
That's, I think, in their eyes. And my own grandson, who was 4 years old or 5 years old. So so two of my grandchildren were in the induction ceremony. My granddaughter was 2 years old. Both are super close to me. My granddaughter, when I gave speech, she said, Nanu talks too much. So I'm giving a speech. And when the older one says, I want to be the best engineer like my grandfather. So it's already starting to kind of build up in their mind that
you inspired them.
I think so. And I feel that for me, accomplishment is not what I'm getting it. My accomplishment is what I'm teaching my children and grandchildren. So that's really where, and also for me, the other accomplishment is what I can do for the industry. And for me, helping the industry grow, our SAMI's principle is we're country neutral, company neutral. So I'm not taking sides of country A versus B versus C, but I see there's a potential here.
So you are giving back to the ecosystem.
I'm giving back to the ecosystem.
At the same time, definitely you are giving back to the country.
Absolutely.
Because your country is also an important part of the ecosystem.
I think the good thing is this, some people will do it because they have an agenda. I have no agenda, I'm selfless. I have zero agenda. In fact, I tell people that I worked in the corporate world, I was working to live. Now I'm living to work, because I will never just retire and sit home and do nothing.
So that is your vision.
That's my vision, that I have another vision that I want to create something equivalent to World Electronic Forum, which I'll launch probably in 2 years from now, which will be a geotechnological platform, which I'm thinking of creating something like that, which will be a good platform where the best of the best brains can come and talk about the industry in 2040 or 2050. Look 20 years down the road. So for me,
on LinkedIn for the electronics or semiconductor industry.
That's right. It will be the foundation will be semiconductors for sure. So that's why I think I said it many times. I wish I was starting in the industry today, because the future of this industry is only bright, and there's no turning back. I think the message to the people who read my stories, for the young kids around the world, that semiconductor industry will be the industry to transform the world. Why? Every industry depends on semiconductors today. If you want to transform the world, get to the bottom of this, get to the foundation of this, which is semiconductor industry.
And day by day, that electronic content is increasing everywhere. So
I look at it this way.
Digital. People
call it to say data economy and data is the oil. I think chips are the oil. In fact, if you don't have oil, you can use nuclear energy, you can use solar energy. If you don't have chips, there is no substitute for chips.
No, and if you see in economy, even in Europe also, after World War II, many economies they stood only because of that semiconductor thing.
Yeah.
So that
No,
is
but it's
the
very clear.
backbone.
It's very clear. I mean, when I say chips of the oil, because if the chip is not there, you cannot fix that device without a chip. It's just not going to work. So for me, this is really the foundation for our transformation which has started. I think the young generation should really try to understand the importance of chip industry, the importance of what they can do to help the industry and help transform the world. Because all the global challenges I was talking, actually, I lost track after that. So I mentioned talent. Then the third one is the supply chain disruption. The fourth one is very technical about a certain chemical or materials we use in our industry. They are becoming very difficult to find alternate chemistries. There are four global challenges in that no single company, no single country, no single leader can solve. So SAMI is actually a collaborator. So I'm bringing the people together from all parts of the world to say, let's deal with these global challenges. And I'm really having a great time doing that. And at the same time, we are very fortunate that India is now getting into this business. And I would wish the fellow Indians to really step up and learn how other countries have done it and why can't we do it. And countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, they are very successful. And they are, we have everything they have and more. So let's go with it.
So the two women behind your success, your mother and your wife. Just
I think
you told about your wife, and what is her name?
Vanita.
Vanita ji, huh? So
I think
just one or two lines about Vanita ji.
Yeah.
So what she did,
I
and
would
also
say
two
that
lines about your mom.
my mother was always my mother and father both were my best friends. They always loved me and they always supported me. They never ever told me you can't do this or you can do that. They were always like, बेटा जो करना है करो, मगर हमेशा एक चीज का ख्याल रखना. Only one advice: never ever do anything which will put a scar on your head. And work hard. My dad's message was work hard. My mother's was also do like the Romans. If you're Rome, do like Romans. Learn to adapt the other cultures.
That helped you.
That helped too. So because we're a very vegetarian family in India, and my mom said, if you have to drink there, you can drink, and you have to eat meat. Don't worry about it. But of course, I prefer dal roti. I'm a dal roti guy, and but I did not develop any addiction except family and my business, my work. And so, but I tell you, coming to US, the way my wife supported me, it is amazing. I mean,
She was also an engineer.
Sorry?
She was also from the
No,
same.
she's not an engineer. She's actually a history major from Delhi also. But she uprooted the whole family. She quit her job to support me. We went to Spain. We moved probably 15 times in 40 years. And she never ever said no way. She supported me. Without her support, I would have done nothing. I can say that with a lot of pride. That it was my wife's biggest support. Of my children, I have 3 children, and they're all very loving and caring. And my middle child, Anne, Anu, Hindi mein, I mean, she is actually was in the same industry, so she and I actually had more, I would say, alignment, because she was also in the semi industry. She was in the finance side, and so she will always be kind of finding faults in me and telling me how I should do things differently, which should be good for the new school people. I'm an old school guy, so she will always bring me to the new schools.
So she's bridging the gap.
Yeah, bridging the gap between us. So, and I think all my children, they will. I let them make fun of me when I do silly things. But now my life is my children and 4 grandchildren, 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and of course my wife is the most important woman in my life. My mom and dad passed away, and so it's going well.
Last rapid fire kind of thing about your favorite things. Favorite book?
Well, I don't have one favorite book. I have many books, the books I really learn from the leadership type books. So I have many leadership books that I read. Actually, I'm writing my own book on leadership, which will be, I don't know the title yet.
But we'll be waiting for that book.
It will probably happen in 3-4 years. And but I read those books because I consider myself as a lifelong student. I still learn. I learn from my children, my grandchildren, and the world. So I'm always open for learning. So, but I know you asked me about the movies, our Indian programs. We still watch Indian TV at US every day. My favorite are Indian Idol and Kapil Sharma show. I'm so impressed with the talent in India that where the Sony TV brings the best of the best talent. I get fascinated with that. In fact, when I had this first induction into the Hall of Fame, I wanted to throw a big party and invite one of the Indian Idol of 13 to US. And of course, after the pandemic hit, so I could not do it. And so we are still Desi at heart. And I said I'm a dal roti guy only. And so my wife is a big fan of the Indian TV also. She watches all kind of soaps and other things.
Favorite singer?
Singer? Oh, I tell you, that's a very good question also. I still think Mohammed Rafi is the lifelong legend. But of the new ones, there are quite a few new ones. I'm actually being a big fan of Neha Kakkar also. I mean, she sings very nicely. Ajit Singh, oh my goodness, I love him. So there are many actually. And the only thing is...
listen Shreya Ghoshal?
I listen to her. That's what I do. I have my own playlist of all the good songs. I still go with the old songs. I mean, I cannot ever live without the old songs.
True.
So, and in fact, when I play the old songs all the time, my children also are loving the old songs. We old Hemant Kumar and Talat Mahmood. I listen to all those songs, and I think whenever I'm kind of sitting sometime like in the plane, I'll have my playlist on with the old songs. So I listen to that all the time.
Great. And food, you have mentioned you love Indian food.
Dal roti. Actually, my 60th birthday, some people gave me gifts, and one of my best close friends gave me a robe, and it says on the front Ajit and the back says Dal roti. So.
And any favorite movie you would like to mention?
I guess tell you, I am still Mughal-e-Azam was one of my favorite movies, and this with age you start forgetting names.
No, you can take your
Basanti jisme.
Sholay.
Oh gosh, I watched every time I get chance to watch it again. I watch.
That's really a well-made one.
Yeah.
Because if I compare that movie with other movies from Mr. Sippy, it's totally different.
Totally different.
A good screenplay
and
also lots of sense of humor.
Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, that's another movie. I mean, I was literally crying and people are making fun of me. Dad, you're too emotional.
Because you were able to connect, right?
I think
the generation.
People ask me what are the addictions you have. I say 2 addictions only: my family,
yes,
and my work. And when I see the families going through ups and downs, it emotionally, because we had lots of ups and downs in my family, so I immediately get emotional about those things.